After 10 years of heartbreak and taunts, Ada's prayers were finally answered. Her miracle baby, Junior, was born. But what started as a mother's unshakable love for her son slowly transformed into a bond so twisted and dangerous, it threatened to tear her family apart. When a child calls his mother queen, it's sweet, but when he starts fighting to keep her as his alone, it's terrifying. In a culture where family is everything, how do you stop love from crossing the line? This is a story of devotion, denial, and a chilling obsession that spiraled out of control. The question is, how far will love go before it destroys everything? After 10 years of mockery and tears, Ada's prayers were finally answered with the birth of her son, Junior. Her joy was immeasurable, and the ridicule of Mama Ugo, her critical mother-in-law, was finally silenced. Junior became Ada's pride, her miracle, her entire world. She vowed to shield him from every hardship life could throw his way. When Ada brought Junior home, she called a meeting with her domestic staff. Her tone was firm and unwavering. "Listen carefully. Junior is my miracle, and nothing must happen to him. Don't touch him, scold him, or upset him. I will handle everything." Her devotion bordered on obsessiveness. Anyone who dared mishandle Junior's belongings was fired without hesitation. John, her husband, observed Ada's overprotectiveness, but said little at first. However, as Junior grew, his dependency on Ada became concerning. Junior refused to play with other children, following Ada everywhere like her shadow. If she dared laugh at one of John's jokes, Junior would throw tantrums, demanding her attention. "He's just showing how much he loves me," Ada defended. John, however, was uneasy. Ada, a child that clings too much, forgets how to stand on their own. But Ada dismissed his concerns, unaware of what was brewing. As Junior grew older, his bond with Ada became more pronounced. He clung to her constantly, refusing to let her out of his sight. Ada found joy in his attention, interpreting his behavior as love. John, however, saw warning signs. By Junior's third birthday, his tantrums were no longer innocent. If Ada paid attention to anyone else, he'd throw his toys, stomp his feet, and scream. John tried to correct him, but Ada always intervened. "Stop scolding him, John. He's just a child." Their arguments about Junior's behavior became frequent. "Ada, you're spoiling him. He needs boundaries," John said sternly one evening, but Ada wouldn't hear of it. "He's my miracle, and I'll raise him how I want." One day after her bath, Ada approached Junior, who was playing on the bed. Unbothered by her state of undress, she spoke to him as usual. Junior, curious, asked questions about her body, and Ada laughed it off. To her, Junior was innocent and unaware. John grew increasingly uncomfortable with the unusual closeness between mother and son. "This isn't healthy," he warned. But Ada waved him off, blind to the darkness forming in their seemingly unbreakable bond. Junior's possessiveness over Ada became more apparent as he aged. He would sit with her for hours, glaring at anyone who dared take her attention away from him. If Ada spent time with John, Junior would throw fits, crying until Ada consoled him. One afternoon, their neighbor Jackson casually complimented Ada. "Ah, Ada, you're glowing. Motherhood suits you." Before Jackson could finish, Junior stormed forward, shoving him against the wall. "Don't talk to her like that," he yelled. Jackson, startled, laughed nervously and left, but John was furious. That evening, he confronted Ada. "This boy isn't acting like a child. He's acting like a jealous husband. Ada, this has to stop." "He's just protective," Ada argued, dismissing John's concerns once again. Deep down, however, she began to question if there was truth to John's words. Could Junior's behavior really be more than innocent affection? Despite her doubts, Ada clung to the belief that Junior's behavior was harmless. After all, he was her miracle, her firstborn. But the cracks in their relationship were growing, and the consequences of her indulgence were becoming harder to ignore. While tidying Junior's room one afternoon, Ada noticed a small notebook hidden beneath his pillow. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it. What she saw made her blood run cold. Page after page was filled with obsessive declarations. "She's mine. No one else can have her, not even Dad." If he tries, I'll stop him." Ada's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. Each entry grew darker and more alarming. Her heart raced as she closed the diary and returned it to its hiding spot, hoping Junior wouldn't notice. That night, Ada lay awake, her mind racing with questions. Was this just a phase, a childish obsession, or was something far more sinister brewing within her son? Despite the fear gnawing at her, Ada chose to dismiss the diary as the overactive imagination of a teenager. "He's just expressing himself," she whispered to herself. But deep down she knew the truth wasn't so simple. One evening, as Ada prepared dinner, Junior sat silently at the dining table, his gaze fixed on her. "Junior, are you okay?" she asked, concerned by his unusual quietness. "Mama," he began hesitantly, "I need to tell you something." Ada smiled, expecting a simple question or request. "What is it, my love?" Junior looked her straight in the eye. "I love you, Mama. Not like a son loves his mother. I love you like a man loves a woman." Ada froze, her breath catching in her throat. "Junior, don't say such things," she said, forcing a nervous laugh. "You're confused." But Junior shook his head. "I'm not confused, Mama. You're mine. No one else can have you." Horrified, Ada stepped back, her mind racing. "This isn't right, Junior. I'm your mother." Before she could leave the room, Junior grabbed her arm. "You don't understand. We belong together." Terrified, Ada broke free and immediately called John, her hands trembling. "Come home now," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Something's wrong with Junior." John arrived home within minutes, alarmed by the panic in Ada's voice. As he entered the house, he found Junior standing rigidly in the living room, his fists clenched. "What's going on here?" John demanded. Before Ada could respond, Junior erupted. "She doesn't need you. You don't belong here," he shouted, his voice filled with venom. John's face hardened as he turned to Ada. "What has he been saying to you?" Ada hesitated, her fear evident. He said he loves me, John, not as a son, but as—" Her voice faltered. John's expression darkened. "Junior, go to your room. Now!" But Junior didn't move. "No, I'm not leaving. You're the one who should leave. She's mine, not yours." In a fit of rage, Junior lunged at John, attempting to shove him. John managed to restrain him, but the struggle left everyone shaken. "This ends now," John said firmly. "Ada, this is your fault. I warned you, but you refused to listen." Ada stood frozen, guilt consuming her. She realized she had nurtured this behavior through her blind devotion, but how could she undo what she had allowed to grow for years? That night, Ada and John sat in tense silence. The weight of the evening hung heavily in the air. "We need to do something, Ada," John said. "This can't continue." Ada nodded, tears streaming down her face. "But what do we do? Therapy? A pastor?" John hesitated before replying. "We need professional help. Someone who can deal with this kind of behavior." Ada called her mother, Mama Ugo, the next day and explained everything. Mama Ugo was horrified. "Ada, this is a spiritual problem. Take him to church immediately." Ada, desperate for answers, agreed. They visited a renowned pastor who claimed Junior was under a dark influence. "This child is cursed," the pastor declared dramatically. "We must cleanse him." John, skeptical of the pastor's methods, argued for therapy instead. But Ada, feeling helpless, agreed to the pastor's demands. That evening, they began a prayer session for Junior. However, as the pastor chanted and prayed, Junior stood unmoving, glaring at him. Without warning, Junior lunged at the pastor, tearing his robe. "Stop this nonsense," he screamed. "I don't need saving. I need her." After the failed prayer session, John insisted on taking Junior to a therapist. "This isn't a spiritual issue, Ada. He needs psychological help," John said firmly. Reluctantly, Ada agreed. Their first session was tense. The therapist asked Junior basic questions, but he remained silent, his eyes fixed on Ada the entire time. "Mrs. Ada, your son has developed an unhealthy obsession with you," the therapist explained after the session. "This isn't love, it's possessiveness, and it's dangerous." Ada felt her world crumbling. She had thought her love for Junior was pure, protective. Now she realized it had blurred lines that should never have been crossed. Junior's refusal to cooperate made therapy difficult. He grew angrier with each session, accusing Ada of betraying him. "Why are you taking their side, Mama? Don't you love me anymore?" he asked one evening, his voice trembling with rage. Ada's heart broke, but she knew they had to continue, no matter how painful it became. Junior's behavior spiraled further out of control. He moved his belongings into Ada's room, declaring that he would no longer sleep apart from her. "I need to protect you, Mama," he said, his tone both loving and threatening. One night, Ada tried to move his things back to his room, but Junior caught her. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice rising. "You don't love me anymore, do you?" Ada froze, her hands trembling. "Junior, this isn't normal. You need to stay in your own room." "No," he replied coldly. "If I can't be near you, I'll make sure no one else is either." His words sent chills down Ada's spine. She confided in John, who grew more alarmed. "We can't wait any longer," he said. "This has to stop." One night, while Ada was preparing for bed, Junior cornered her. "Mama, if I can't have you, no one will," he said, his voice eerily calm. Ada tried to reason with him, but when she stepped away, Junior grabbed her arm and pulled her closer. His grip was strong, and Ada could feel the danger in his movements. Panicking, she screamed for help. John, who had just returned from work, burst into the room. Seeing Junior's grip on Ada, he tackled him to the ground. Junior fought back with a strength fueled by rage, but John managed to subdue him. "I'm calling the police," John said, his voice shaking with anger. "He needs to be taken away." The police arrived quickly, pulling Junior away as he screamed and thrashed. "You don't understand. She's mine. She loves me," he yelled as he was dragged out of the house. Ada collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. John tried to comfort her, but his own anger and frustration made it difficult. "This is what your blind love has done," he said. "You created this." Though harsh, John's words rang true. Ada had allowed her love to cloud her judgment, and now her family was in ruins. The days following Junior's arrest were some of the darkest of Ada's life. She replayed every decision, every moment where she could have set boundaries but chose not to. The weight of her guilt was unbearable. John, though angry, knew Ada was suffering. "We need to move forward," he said. "Blaming yourself won't help him now." Ada decided to visit Junior in the detention center. Seeing him behind bars broke her heart, but she knew it was necessary. "Mama, why did you let them take me?" Junior asked, his voice filled with betrayal. "Because I love you," Ada replied, tears streaming down her face. "And this is the only way to save you." Junior was transferred to a secure psychiatric facility where he began intensive therapy. At first, he resisted, refusing to speak to the therapists or acknowledge his issues. But over time, the sessions began to make an impact. Ada visited him regularly, though the visits were emotionally taxing. Each time, Junior's anger softened slightly, replaced by sadness and regret. "Mama, I'm sorry," he said one day. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Ada held his hands through the glass barrier. "We'll get through this, my son. I promise." John and Ada worked tirelessly to rebuild their relationship. For the first time, they openly discussed their mistakes, their fears, and their hopes for the future. Slowly, they began to heal as a family. Junior's progress in therapy continued. Though the road was long, he started to understand the boundaries that had been blurred and the consequences of his actions. Years later, Junior returned home, a changed man. He apologized to John and Ada, expressing deep remorse for his behavior. Though scars remained, the family had grown stronger through the ordeal. Ada had learned a hard lesson. Love, when unchecked, can become dangerous. "Boundaries protect love," she said, her voice resolute. As they sat together as a family for the first time in years, John smiled at Ada. "We survived," he said. And though the shadows of the past lingered, they embraced the future with hope, determined to never repeat the mistakes of before. Like, comment, and subscribe for more.